And I've chosen this photograph to paint today because it's got a full range of tonal values in there. So we've got the lightest light of the clouds in the sky, and then the building on the left is obviously quite black. So if I change it to black and white, take out all the colour, so that's not interfering, that's not getting in the way, and you can see it still reads as a landscape. So I did a very quick sketch of the scene there. And now I'm going to paint this using grey, but concentrating on those tonal values. So working from a lightest light with clouds in the sky, mid-tones in the distance and across the land, and then those darks in that building on the left. So bringing in a little bit of water, using a mist bottle. That's just so the paint can move around on the paper. And now I like to use two colours and mix my own greys. That way I can get a full range of greys, but also I can go warmer or slightly cooler if I choose to. So I'll mix up a fairly neutral grey. It's burnt sienna and ultramarine. And I'll bring in some of those slightly darker tones in the sky, which is actually the blue of the sky. The lightest light there are those cloud shapes. And now if I was working in colour, I'd still try and work in this same way. So thinking of the value of the blue that I would lay down for that area. But obviously I'm working in grey, so all I'm thinking about now is the difference between light and dark. So bringing in some of that neutral grey all around for the sky, and then leaving behind the white areas for some clouds. Now I'll change that grey mixture that I've got. Just varying amounts of the same colours, make it slightly darker. Now there's some shadow areas under the bottom of the clouds. So let's bring in some slightly warmer greys across the land now. So it's a tiny little bit more burnt sienna in that grey mixture. But it's all one big mid-tone really across the land, apart from the building and then the shadows, but I'll add those towards the end. So a slightly cooler grey, it's a little bit bluer, and I'll lay that in one go to suggest a little bit of distance. Now I'm going to treat this as a very simple demonstration, but hopefully at the end of it, it will still read as a definite distance, midground and foreground. And that's really by working from light to dark. So let's make that grey tiny little bit darker. And there's that barn there in the middle distance. Can lay that in all as one mid-tone shape. And there's some little trees and bushes, and I can continue that across, paint that all in as one shape. And now instantly, where that's slightly darker in tone than that little bit of distance that I put in, it brings it closer and pushes that distance back. And so that's a way you can achieve aerial perspective just by the use of tonal values. Now I've pretty much painted the sky and the building and all the middle distance and everything across the land, but I can start working on this building now, which is pretty much black. And then hopefully once I get that in, I'll pull everything together and you should see a kind of an illusion really of perspective just by painting areas lighter and then mid-toned and then darker. So I've mixed up again ultramarine and burnt sienna, and I can get almost black with that mixture. So treat this one big shape of the building and all those bushes that surround it, treat that all as one big dark shape. So put the house in silhouette there. I'll swap back to the slightly larger brush and mix up a little bit more paint. Again, very dark, pretty much as dark as I can go. And now laying in this very dark shape, almost black, it's pushed that middle distance even further away now. And so I'm starting to get an impression of a definite foreground, midground distance. Don't need to worry about any of the details in the reference photo, it's just a demonstration. So lay this in very quickly. Still getting a little bit of variation in those darks, so I like to change the mixture every time I go back. There's a little track that goes off around the bend there. Little scrubby areas in the grass as well. So thinking of aerial perspective, thinking of perspective in general as well. So harder, darker shapes down in the foreground is a basic rule of thumb that you can follow. A few little dark shapes in the distance there, some shadows just under the roof, on the gable end of that barn. Now the shadows coming out from the bushes there, slightly lighter in tone than the bushes themselves. So I can drag some paint out for that. And now pretty much instantly I've got a definite foreground with lots of texture, and my darkest dark pretty much included down there, and then the building which is catching a little bit of light, and then into the midground which is the middle tones as well, and that's receding off, and then there's a separation between that and that tiny little light grey blue streak. Okay, I've dried that off, and I think I'll just bring in a little bit of shadow on the gable end of that barn. Tiny little bit on the roof there as well, just make it look a little bit three-dimensional. And again, a couple of tiny little bushes there, create that separation. Let's mix up a little bit of very dark paint again, tiniest little bit. Reinstate the little line in the track going around the bend. Now that is pretty much the darkest dark in the painting there. A couple of little areas of texture across the land as well. It's only a quick demonstration just to highlight what I'm trying to talk about, but still might as well just make it a bit of a finished painting while I'm at it. A few areas of shadow in that bush there. Now they're ever so slightly darker in tone than the darks on the building,